Touch handling in Cocos2D. In this section, we are going to see how to handle touch events in Cocos2D applications using Xcode. Let's start by opening a Cocos2D project. In this project, we have removed the lines of code to add the Hello World label to the scene inside the init method of the Hello World layer implementation file. Instead, we have added the code to add a play sprite to the scene. We have given an image to the sprite, which we have added into the project resources. We have positioned the sprite to the center of the screen. Now let's see how to enable touch to this scene. For enabling touch inside a particular scene, we have to set the isTouchEnabled property of the scene to yes or true. Now we have enabled touch for the scene. Next, we have to implement the built-in methods of Cocos2D to handle the touch. The method used for handling the touch in Cocos2D project is the ccTouchesBegan with event method. The parameters passed to this method will be the set of touches received by the class, and also the event that triggered this method call. Let's display something in the console on touching the scene. For this, add the code using the nslog method. Now let's go ahead and run the application. As we can see, the scene is loaded with the play sprite added. Now touch anywhere on the screen. We can see that the line we have added inside the touch handling method is displayed in the console. Let's enlarge the console and see it clearly. Now touch the screen and we can see the log line displayed in the console. We can touch the screen multiple times, and each time the log line will be printed in the console. This means that now the scene is getting touch events, and we can now handle those touched using the ccTouchesBegan with event method. This method will be called when a touch event starts on the screen. We have a separate method for handling the end of the touch event. The method used for this is ccTouchesEnded with event. Let's implement that method in our scene. Let's nslog something inside this method. Now run the application. Touch the screen and hold. We can see that the log message inside the TouchesBegan method is displayed when we start the touch, and that inside the TouchesEnded method is not displayed. This is because we are holding the touch and haven't yet ended it. Now let's end the touch, and we can see the log message inside the TouchesEnded appearing now. This is because we have began our touch earlier, but ended it only now. Now go back to the implementation file. We have seen how to handle starting and ending of touch. Next, we are going to see how to handle dragging or moving of touch. We have to implement the ccTouchesMoved with event method to handle it. Let's nslog something inside this method. Let's run the application. Touch the screen, and we can see the log message inside touched began to appear on the console. Now let's move the finger or mouse across the screen without ending the touch. We can see that the log message given inside the TouchesMoved method is displayed in the console while we are moving the finger or cursor around the screen. Let's end the touch, and we can see the log message given inside the TouchesEnded method is displayed in the console. Now go to the implementation file and comment the TouchesEnded and TouchesMoved methods. Let's first focus on how to get the touch points. For this, let's move to the TouchesBegan method. Inside that, declare an object of UITouch and assign the current touch to this object. This can be done by using the anyObject method of the set of touches that we are passing to the method. In this case, it's the parameter touches. Now we have the touch object with us. Next, we have to find the location of this touch object. We have to use the locationInView method of the touch object to get the touch location. The parameter passed to this method is the view of the current touch, i.e., the view which received the touch. The result of this will a point, so it is stored to a cgPoint object. Let's name this cgPoint object as location. Since we are using Cocos2D, the value we get from the object location will be in the Cocos2D coordinates. We can convert these Cocos2D coordinates into view coordinates using the convertToGL method of the CC director. Let's write the code to log the X and Y coordinate value of the touch location. Let's run the application to see the code in action. Touch on any location in the screen, and we can see the X and Y coordinates displayed in the console. Next, we are going to see how to get touch in a particular location of the screen. In this example, we are going to see how to handle the touch on the play sprite we have added to the screen. For getting the ccSprite object, play inside the touch methods. Let's add a tag for the same. Let's give 1 as the tag for the play sprite. Let's move to the ccTouchesBegan method. Next, we have to write an if condition in such a way that the condition will be satisfied only if the touch location is inside the sprite object, play. We can use the cgRectContainsPoint method of object C for accomplishing this. The parameters passed to this method are the cgRect object, which is the rectangular region whose area is to be checked, and the cgPoint object, which is to be checked for inside the rectangular region. In this example, since we are going to check the touch location on the play sprite, we have to give the parameters as in here. The first parameter we have to give as the rectangular region of the play sprite. We can get the play sprite inside this method by using its tag. We can use the getChildByTag method of the scene to get the sprite using its tag. The bounding box method of the sprite will get the current rectangular region of the sprite. The second parameter for this method is the touch point, which is the location object in this example. Let's write the code to log something on touching the play sprite inside this if condition. We can also implement the else loop for this if loop to log that the touch is outside the sprite in the console. Now run the application. Here, touch anywhere outside the play image. We can see that the code given inside the else block is executed. Now let's touch inside the play image, and we can see that the code inside the if block is executed. So we have seen how to check whether a touch location is inside a particular sprite or region or not. Next, we are going to see how to move a sprite in response to touch. For that, let's declare a global sprite object named TouchSprite inside the interface file of the class. Let's assign the TouchSprite to the play sprite when touched inside that. This can be accomplished by assigning the play sprite to the touch sprite inside the if condition that we have seen earlier. We can also set the ccSprite object named TouchSprite to nil inside the else block. Since we are planning to implement the movement of touch, let's uncomment the touched_moved method. Now let's implement the code to move the sprite object on touches moved inside this method. Since we are using the TouchSprite object, we have to first check whether that object is there or is it nil. We can write the code to return from this method execution if the TouchSprite object is nil. Otherwise, we can write the code to move the TouchSprite object based on the movement of the touch. For this, let's write the code to get the touch location. Then we can set the position of the touch sprite to the touch location. Now we have to uncomment the TouchesEnded method and write the code to make the touch sprite object as nil. This is done to make sure that the sprite is moved only if we are dragging from inside that. If we want, we can write the condition in such a way that the code will be executed only if the touch sprite object is not already nil. Now run the application. Here, let's drag the play image, and we can see that the play image is dragged along while we move the touch. We can also try dragging from outside the play image and see that the play image is not dragged along. Let's go to the implementation file and comment the code which makes the TouchSprite object to nil at the end of the TouchesBegan method, and also comment the TouchesEnded method as a whole. Now run the application. We can see that once we drag the play image, even if we drag from outside it, the play image is dragged along.